Hi guys. Hi. How are you on this lovely day? Good to be here. And hello from New York City. I'm in California. Welcome everybody. Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from joyfulvegan.com here. Hi everybody. I thought I would do this Periscope for so many people who have such basic questions about becoming vegan. I do so much work around, obviously, on veganism, and there's so many people who have just basic questions, and I never take that for granted. Hi, everybody. You were just listening to my podcast. I'm sorry I didn't see who that was. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I was pretty psyched to get that podcast out. It feels like Sunday. I know it's Monday, but it feels like Sunday. For those of you who are in the United States, I just saw hi from New Jersey. I will be in New Jersey tomorrow, actually. The New York, New Jersey area. I'll be there for a week. And but right now I'm in California, and I wanted to just give some tips for transitioning to veganism, because so many people are compelled to do so for a number of reasons, but don't necessarily know how. And that's really how I see my work, is really helping people with the how, because I think so many people already know why. So again, that's what I'm going to talk about today. My name is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and you can find my work at joyfulvegan.com. That's where you can find all of my books and my podcast. As someone just mentioned, the Food for Thought podcast. You can find Food for Thought at iTunes and Stitcher, and of course at joyfulvegan.com. And the book and the program that really has guided so many people, aside from the podcast itself, is the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. And I'm going to draw from some of the 30-Day Vegan Challenge today to really help people, because this really is the guide for people, anybody who is interested in becoming vegan. Hi, Christian. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for being here. You know, one of the things that I think characterizes my work is that I'm pretty hopeful about the state of things, because I do believe that people really do want to make a difference. But I think that people forget that in order to make a difference, we may have to do something different. You like my ring? Thank you. Is that ring? It's a pretty good ring. It's like a weapon. And so, by the way, so my challenge would be for cooking for other people who don't want to be vegan, how to go about that. Yep, we'll talk about that. I'm going to do a series on this. I'm just going to do this ongoing. I think today I'm just going to talk about some basics, which really has to do with changing your perception. So I want to just make sure people know that they can invite people to join this Periscope. I think if you're on Androids, you can swipe up, and if you're on an iOS, you can swipe to the right, and you can share with people right away. I'm also on Twitter, obviously. Periscope and Twitter are linked. So if you share, you can actually get rid of the link that they give you and even just do an @joyfulvegan on Twitter. But you can also just share, and I can see your questions on Twitter as well. And I'll also be able to see your questions directly here. It's a holiday, so it might be a pretty light crowd today, but hopefully this is something people can watch later. Tammy just said, I just received the 30-Day Vegan Challenge book. I'm so excited to have it and to begin my journey. And Vegan Voyage just said that they purchased Vegan's Daily Companion. Wonderful. Wonderful. It is wonderful. Thank you so much. Both of those are obviously favorite books of mine, being my books. And they're like my babies. So I'm very proud of my babies. That would be book number 5. No, book number 4 and number 7. So again, we're going to get started. I'm going to just kind of give my 10 tips to making the transition, and then I'm going to take your questions. So don't think I'm ignoring you. If you ask some questions on the screen or on Twitter, you can get me at joyfulvegan.com anytime. And again, you can follow me here, and you can swipe to the right if you want to invite other people to join, and you can swipe up if you're on Android, if you want people to join. So you can share this right now as we're scoping, as they say, as we're broadcasting live. So, one of the things I talk about a lot when I talk about being vegan, especially when transitioning and once you've transitioned, is making sure that you're really clear about what vegan is. And so really, some people are still unclear about what vegan is, and I will be repeating this until I die, that, vegetarian is obviously not consuming the flesh of any animal, and that includes fish. But vegan is not consuming the flesh of an animal or their secretions, so anything that comes off of or out of an animal. And the reason I say it's really important to know, that's not even the distinction I think is really important. The thing that I think is really important when talking about what vegan means is really understanding that it's not about being perfect, that it's not about being pure, that you don't get some certificate of perfection when you become vegan. What you do is you very consciously manifest your values in your behavior. And one of the biggest misconceptions about being vegan is that it's an end in itself, as if it's some goal to reach. And I think this is where people really get tripped up, and this is where people get really self-righteous, and this is where people get really afraid of not doing it right, is they think that being vegan is an end in itself, and you become vegan and that's it, that's the goal. Well, the goal is not being vegan, in my opinion. The goal is actually manifesting what we care about most, and that might be our values, that might be our values of compassion, our values of wellness, and ultimately vegan is a means to manifesting those values. It's not an end in itself. And I think that is the most important thing that I would say. So hang on to your questions. That's the first thing I would say, is being really, really clear about what vegan means. If you really want to join in this conversation, I really encourage you to do so. If you want to be productive, please stay. If you really just don't want to be productive, then I'm sure there are plenty of other periscopes that you can join. So I would love you to stay if you want to be productive and serious, with a sense of humor. Love senses of humor. So please do participate, but I really want this to be constructive and productive and helpful for people. So that would be number one. Okay, so let's just get rid of that there. And so that's number one, is being clear that being vegan is not an end in itself, but it's a means to an end. Number two, I would say, is really, I'm very much an optimistic, positive person. And I really do think it's about being as positive as possible. And there's a lot of language around veganism that makes it sound like it's something that you're giving up. And for me, it's really something that you're letting go of and you're taking on. So instead of making it feel like you're giving things up and you don't have the things you love anymore, that tends to be kind of what the perception is. I really encourage people to look at it very differently and really change your perception around it and look at it as a very positive thing. So in some ways, I think people think that being vegan is always about saying no, but I really think being vegan is about saying yes. It's about saying yes to our values. It's about saying yes to the things we care about. It's about saying yes to who we really are that we haven't been really listening to, because most of us are compassionate, kind people who would not directly hurt anyone if we were given the opportunity to do so. And of course, we have the opportunity at any given moment, but we choose not to hurt anybody. And yet, by eating meat, dairy, and eggs, we are contributing to the things that we are the most really uncomfortable with. It's one of the reasons we don't want to look at slaughter videos. It's one of the reasons we don't want to look at anything that has to do with the animal exploitation industries. So being vegan is an opportunity to say yes to the values that we care about most. And I think it's really important to turn it around and not look at it like it's something we're saying no to, but rather something we're saying yes to. So that's number two. And again, if you're just joining, this is 10 tips for transitioning to being vegan. And some of what I'm saying is coming from the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. For those of you who have this book, it's an online program and it's also a book. And so I'm going to talk about 8 other tips, and I'm going to also take your questions. Vegan is the natural human way to be compassionate, not the other way around, that it's a diet. Yeah, I mean, again, there are a lot of misconceptions. Vegan is often talked about as a diet, and of course, it's so much more than that. You did the challenge and never looked back 6.5 years ago. That's so awesome. Is that Christy? Sorry if I didn't say that right. I think it's Christy. Hi, Christy. Thank you. That's so awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay, so number three, I would say be really clear about your intention. One of the things I talk about in the 30-Day Vegan Challenge when people are getting started is that I encourage people to really create what their intentions and goals are and be really realistic about what those goals are. A lot of people do it for different reasons. Some people do it for diet. Some people do it for weight loss. Some people do it for all sorts of reasons. I really kind of don't I don't care why people come to it. I really just want to help them once they decide they want to do it. And so I do want people to be realistic too, because I think if people go into this thinking their entire, they're going to lose 50 pounds in a week and they're never going to have, they're never going to get sick again and they're going to have perfectly clear skin and they're going to have energy through the roof. I mean, those are all things that many people experience, but I would never make those promises, because if you set those expectations for yourself, one of the sure ways to fail at anything is to set expectations. Setting intentions is a very different thing. So setting expectations or goals, which is okay to do, I still encourage you to make them realistic. Maybe an intention is during the 30-day vegan challenge or during the transition, you want to be as open as possible and to be as flexible as possible. Those are intentions. A goal might be, I want to reduce my cholesterol level. I want to reduce my blood pressure. I want to reduce my weight. That's still a realistic goal rather than I want to lose 20 pounds in a month. If you set a goal like that, it might be too high. You might not make it, and then you will fail and blame the veganism, and you'll blame yourself. And I don't think that's a good thing at all. So I think setting goals is absolutely a good thing. Setting intentions is a really good thing. But I really encourage you to make them realistic. Does that make sense? Give me some hearts if that makes sense. I want to make sure you guys are on board with that. Does that make sense? Awesome. Thank you, purple hearts. Thank you, purple hearts. And green hearts and brown hearts. Green hearts, brown hearts, and purple hearts. That's all I see. And red heart and yellow heart. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Green hearts, blue hearts. Thanks, guys. I'm glad that makes sense. I really want it to make sense. That's number 3. So number 1 is be clear about what vegan is about. Number 2 is make it positive. Number 3 is be clear about what your intentions are and your goals and make them realistic. Number 4 is, those of you who know my work know I talk a lot about the fact that being vegan or, vegan food is not food that you're not familiar with. Vegan food is not some separate food group. Vegan food is fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans and mushrooms and grains and herbs and spices. Vegan food is food that we already eat and already love. It's not some special food group. So if you look in your cupboard right now, you will recognize foods that you're already eating and foods that you already love. You just don't call vegan. So anybody who's ever said, well, I don't think I've ever had vegan food, my answer is if you've had a banana, you've had vegan food, because it's just a plant food. So of course it's vegan. We just don't call it a vegan banana because that would be stupid. We just call it a banana. So we need to take vegan food out of the box called vegan and just recognize that it's food we already love. That doesn't mean there aren't some new ingredients and some new cuisines that would be unfamiliar to you, but that doesn't mean they're inferior. And again, I think there's a real misconception that if it's different, it's inferior. And that's really something I want to get across. Does that make sense? Okay, so vegan food is food we're already familiar with. It's not a separate food group, all right? Number 5, one thing I really do encourage people to do before they start the 30-day vegan challenge. We'll get back to your questions, and I want to hear them. So keep your thoughts and questions and there for me so I can answer them. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about 10 tips for making the transition, and this is going to be the first of a series that we're going to do. I'm just going to do these ongoing. This is from the 30-day vegan challenge. You can get the book on Amazon. You can get it at joyfulvegan.com. You can join the online program at 30dayveganchallenge.com. But one of the things that happens is I've never met anybody who hasn't said, I don't eat a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs. Everybody says they don't eat a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs, but the truth is you don't know how much you eat until you stop. So the truth is, one of the values and benefits of doing the 30-day vegan challenge is that you get to recognize your habits, because you're not aware of them until you go, I'm going to go have oh wait, I'm not doing that right now. So what's over here that I've never looked at before? And that's the first opportunity you have to really recognize what your habits are and make a new one. So make new habits, make a new choice, make a different choice. So I recommend that, especially as people are preparing for something like the 30-day vegan challenge. A lot of people hear this. A lot of people hear that. I've never met anyone who doesn't have the perception of themselves that they don't eat a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs. Thanks, Sunlight Yoga, for tweeting it on Twitter. Everybody can do it right now. You can go to @joyfulvegan.com and you can share this. And you can share this. Hello, Mr. Hairy Pants. You can swipe to the right if you're on iOS and swipe up if you're on Android, and you can share this. So everybody has that perception of themselves, and yet the truth is you don't know how much meat, dairy, and eggs you eat until you stop. And so what I recommend is, before someone taking something like the 30-day vegan challenge, is that they actually write down their food intake for 3 days, just to get a sense of what you eat. Because again, everyone has a particular perception of themselves, but that's not necessarily always accurate. So if you write down what you eat for 3 days, everything, snacks, lunch, breakfast, dinner, everything, what you drink, then you really get a sense of, wow, okay, I eat a lot more cheese than I thought, so maybe I want to make sure that I'm getting that fat and salt and texture and that familiarity during the 30-day vegan challenge. Wow, I eat a lot more, or I drink a lot more wine than I thought. Whatever, I don't know. Just whatever you'll recognize by writing that down for 3 days. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense? I can't hear you. I don't know if that makes sense to you, and I want to make sure it makes sense to you. Awesome. Okay, good. I got some hearts. So I just want to make sure that makes sense. Loving your way of helping others transition in a realistic way. Well, that is my goal. That is my absolute goal, because I don't want this to be complicated for people, and I don't want people to feel alone, and I don't want people to feel like it's impossible. So thanks for your hearts, everybody. So that's number 5. Number 6, I almost said number 4. 6 comes after 5. It totally makes sense. My sister did a thing where she photographed everything she consumed for a week instead of writing. That's a great idea. That's a really good idea, especially in this day and age where we have the opportunity to do that. So yeah, if you don't want to write it down for 3 days, take photographs for 3 days, every meal and everything you eat, every snack, everything you eat. I think it's brilliant. Thanks for that tip. Fantastic. I will remember that. I'm going to take it. I'm going to steal it. And I'll give you your credit and your sister credit. So number 6, I think one of the things that really makes a difference in terms of especially transitioning and then staying vegan is really having a reason. I think if you're really motivated for one reason or another, you will remain vegan. And I mean that. I talk about this a lot in terms of, I think it's really important to actually watch videos that we would normally avoid because we think they're too painful. Watch videos of animals in slaughterhouses and factory farms, because if we can't look at it, then we shouldn't be paying for it. And in looking at it, we realize that's not something we want to be part of, and then we realize that we have the option to not have to be part of it. So I really encourage people to look and to create a reason that's really strong for them. That might just be health reasons. That's fine also, but really be clear about it. One of the things that I talk about in the 30-day vegan challenge is one of the chapters is know your numbers. So that's another way to kind of know your reason. So if you get your numbers done from your doctor, your health practitioner, and you know what your total cholesterol is, you know what your blood pressure is, you know what your blood sugar is, that's something that's really before they start something like the 30-day vegan challenge, and knowing what those numbers are at the end. Because one thing I will guarantee you is if you are genuinely letting go of meat, dairy, and eggs, you will see a difference in those biomarkers. You will absolutely see a difference. So that's another way to be really empowered, is to pay attention to something like that, in addition to paying attention to what we're paying for, to slaughter videos. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your sweethearts. So that's number 6. Number 7 is, again, as you can tell, like 1 through 6 so far, this is all about changing our perception. This isn't even changing any actions yet. This is absolutely changing our perceptions. Sunlight Yoga just said, okay, any test for numbers we can get without a doctor prescription for tests. You really just need to call your doctor and get a prescription for a blood test. So most doctors in their own practice don't do the blood test. They send you to a blood lab. So I think you just still need a blood test for it. And there are B12 tests. Yeah, you can get a B12 test without a doctor. There are even kits online. If you type in B12 test kit at home, you can test your own B12 at home. But most everything else, like your cholesterol, you need to get a blood test for. But blood pressure, obviously, you can do at a pharmacy. Okay, thanks, but do you need an RX for labs? I think you do need a prescription for labs. I think you want to call your doctor, say, I just want to get, I don't know how long it's been since you've been to your doctor. They might want to do a physical before they give you a prescription for the blood test. So you might have to go see your doctor, but call your doctor and find out how you can get your blood work done so that you can find out where your cholesterol and blood pressure and blood work is. You're welcome. Okay. Number 7. So as I said, this is all about a change in perception. So one of the things I really encourage people to just think about, because one of the most common questions about being vegan is, where do we get our protein? Where do we get our omega-3 fatty acids? Someone asked about iron, and we'll come back to that. But I want to impress this upon people. I want to sear this into your brain in the most compassionate way you can sear anything into anyone's brain. Is the nutrients we need are plant-based. The nutrients we need are not animal-based. Right now, what we're doing is going through the animals to get to the nutrients that the animals get because the animals eat plants. And that's the bottom line. We need to skip the middle animal. And when we skip the middle animal, we skip the animal-based saturated fat, the dietary cholesterol, the lactose, the animal protein, none of the things that we need. And when we go directly to the source, we get the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytochemicals, the fiber, the folate, everything that is in plants, that originates in plants, and all of the things that are healthful for us. Does that make sense? The nutrients we need are plant-based, not animal-based. Now, someone was asking about B12. We had a couple questions about B12. B12 is not animal-based and it's not plant-based. It's actually bacteria-based. So bacteria is created by, B12 is created by bacteria. So it's bacteria-based. So we used to eat a lot more soil than we do. I don't know about you, but I'm not eating too much soil right now. But we used to not be so obsessive about cleaning our vegetables. So we used to get soil, which has the micronutrients in it, and we used to consume a lot more. We didn't wash it so much. In terms of nutritional use being sufficient for B12, it's definitely a supplement for B12, but I don't think it's a reliable supplement. I really recommend, based on the doctors and the practitioners that I follow and really respect, like Dr. Greger, is I do believe that the best thing is just take a multivitamin that contains B12, that has all the insurance that we need in our busy industrial lifestyles to make sure that we're just taking in all the nutrients we need. Even if we're eating the healthiest, most whole foods, plant-based diet, it just gives us the insurance because sometimes we eat differently. Sometimes our environment is different. Sometimes we're not taking in as many nutrients as we did the day before. So just a multivitamin that has a B12 in it is sufficient, and then you can get your B12 checked periodically. Does that make sense? Okay, you guys, if you're just joining us, we are talking about the 10 tips for transitioning to a plant-based diet, and we're going to keep talking about this again and again and again. So join us today and join us anytime, and of course you can ask your questions on Twitter as well. My favorite multimedia, my multivitamin brand, I do take Dr. Furman. I like Dr. Furman. Diva is another really good brand that I get the omega-3, the DHA from Diva, D-E-V-A. As far as how much B12 to take in, it's really amazing because we need so little B12. And there's some different recommendations. Right now, the U.S. daily recommended intake for B12 is 2.6 micrograms. So you can imagine how small that is. And I think most multivitamins has about 1,000% more than that. That's because it's hard to create in such small quantities. So it's 2.6 micrograms. And if you're getting it through a supplement or through a multivitamin, you're getting way more than you need. But don't worry about that. It's a water-soluble vitamin. So it's not like there's any toxicity in terms of taking that much more, okay? Do I recommend supplemental DHA, especially walnuts, flax? So if you're on a plant-based diet, how much would you have to eat to meet 5,000 calories a day? Let me get back to that because that's a way more complicated question. As far as your first question, I have already forgotten it. So if you'd like to ask me again, you can. Trying to hold a lot in my brain here at this moment. So let me just move on to number 8, and then we'll take more of your questions. DHA, yes, I will. Okay, let me answer DHA. So omega-3 fatty acids is one of the essential fatty acids, right? There's omega-3s and there's omega-6s. So we're taking in fewer omega-3s than we need, and we're taking in too many omega-6s that we need than we need. Omega-6s tend to be in a lot of processed foods, a lot of candies, a lot of like crackers, a lot of shelf-stable foods. And so we don't need as much omega-6s as we're getting, but we're not getting enough omega-3. So we want to really tip that balance so that we're getting more omega-3s and fewer omega-6s. And we can do that through really healthful plant sources like walnuts, like flax seeds, like chia seeds. Our bodies then convert those omega-3s into the DHA that our bodies really use for our brains, to prevent depression, for our really, really healthy brains and memory. So what I do recommend is making sure that walnuts and flax seeds are part of our regular diet. But I do periodically, once a month or so, do doses of DHA, because DHA is, don't forget, sourced from algae, because again, the nutrients we need are plant-based, and the reason fish that people are consuming because they want to get DHA are getting DHA or omega-3 fatty acids, it's because they're eating algae, right? These are carnivorous fish who are eating other fish who eat the algae, and they're getting it through those animals. So they're also going through the animals to get to the plants, but ultimately it's the plants that give them the nutrients. So when we go directly to the source, like algae, we're getting the DHA. So I do take DHA as well, and I think that's really a positive thing. So that's my recommendation. That's what I do, and that again is based on people that I recommend and follow and respect. So does that make sense? So get your omega-3s through Whole Foods, and then I also think taking DHA on its own liquid form is also a beneficial. Okay? Yes, you with me? You with me? Are you falling asleep? Being Labor Day. Don't fall asleep. Stay with me. Okay. It's so hot out here. It's so hot out here. God, it is so hot out here. I love it, but it's a little hotter than usually is. Listening by a Marin pool. That's awesome. Yeah, it must be pretty hot in Marin today too. I think it's going to start cooling off later this week, but I'll be in New Jersey where it's going to be like really hot. Okay, so that's number 7. Number 8 is be open. Never say never. That's really ultimately what I encourage people to do, is to just really be open and just be open to new challenges and to new things, right? We are such creatures of habit. So I really recommend that people just be open to trying something new. I mean, it doesn't really take much more than that. And you will discover things that you could never have anticipated before. So just be open and give yourself a chance to try some new things, try some new foods, have some new ideas, be open to new possibilities, and I think you'll be amazed and surprised at what you discover. So I think being open is really important. I do recommend that when people are making a transition, I think community is really, really important. So I really do recommend that when people are doing something like, I'm going to show you one more time, the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. When you are doing something like the 30-Day Vegan Challenge, I do recommend that you do it with a friend, because I think being able to talk to each other, to challenge each other, to support each other during the transition, which is the hardest part for people. It's not that being vegan is difficult, it's that change is difficult for people. And during the transition, people can really get tripped up with just that it's different and new. So when you're doing the 30-Day Vegan Challenge or transitioning in any way, I do recommend that you do it with a friend or a family member, especially if you're living in the same house. And, if they can't do it for 30 days and there are larger problems, I can't help you with, because we're talking 30 days is what I'm saying. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Does that make sense? It got darker. It just got darker in here, didn't it? Okay. I don't know. What happened to our light? Okay. I don't know. Does that look okay to you, though? It looks okay? Good. Okay, and then we have number 10. Number 10 is, as I said, I just really encourage people to remember that being vegan is not an end in itself, that it's a means to an end, and I really encourage people to not expect perfection when they make this transition, and to just lighten up and do your best. No one's grading you. The police will not come knocking on your door. I know the vegan police can online seem very intolerant, let's just say, but I will not come knocking on your door. I can promise that no one else will come knocking on your door. It's just a matter of being open and trying new things, and not worrying about doing it perfectly, but at least being true to yourself and true to your own values is something I really encourage you to do. So I think those are just kind of the beginning of what I would say to people, because again, I really think that people are interested in trying it for one reason or another, but they really get tripped up on the how. And we're going to talk about so many different aspects of that. You can find it all in the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. You can find all of this in my podcast, Food for Thought, and on my website, joyfulvegan.com. But if you have any questions that you want me to answer, just to kind of just demystify anything for you as you're getting started. I hear a little critter out there. It's amazing, like little tiny chickadees who like weigh an ounce can make so much noise. So if you have any questions about making the transition, let me know. And you can also at any time go to @joyfulvegan.com. I'm sorry, @joyfulvegan, of course, on Twitter. I will answer your questions there. You can go to Joyful Vegan, ask questions. You can join the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. And I can give the bullet points again. Yes, I will do that. Thank you for asking. So, number one, be clear about what being vegan is, that it's not about rules or doctrine, that it's a means to an end and not an end in itself. Make it positive. This is not about giving things up, but rather about letting things go. It's about saying yes to our values rather than saying no to things. So turn it around. Number three, be clear about your intentions and make your goals realistic. Keep your expectations in check so that you don't set yourself up for failure and you don't set veganism up for failure. Number four is recognize that vegan food is food that you're already familiar with. It's one of the reasons I put vegan in quotes, because it's just food. It's just fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, mushrooms, herbs, and spices, and grains. I forgot my grains. So it's food that we're already familiar with. We don't call a vegan apple. We just say apple because it's just vegan by nature. Okay. Number five is take 3 days to write down or photograph what you eat, because everybody says I don't eat a lot of meat, dairy, and eggs, but the truth is you don't know how much you eat until you stop. So if you look at what you're eating for 3 days before you make the transition, you'll recognize where your habits are and where your palate is and where you tend to make more, what you're eating more of. Okay. Makes sense so far. Number six is create a reason. You really need a reason. So I really do recommend that people go to undercover videos and watch what's happening to the animals, because if you can't look at it, then you shouldn't be supporting it. Because by supporting it, by buying it, we're paying for it and we're saying, yes, I support this and I endorse this and I'm okay with this. But if we're not okay with it, then we need to stop supporting it. And if we can't watch what is happening, truthfully happening, then we shouldn't be supporting it. So I really encourage people to be true to their values and really find a reason that makes sense for them. And that might also be for health. So go to your doctor, know your numbers, find out what your cholesterol numbers are. Sorry about that. And what your blood pressure is, etc., so that you feel really empowered, so you can see the changes that will inevitably happen, those that you can track. Number seven, the nutrients we need are plant-based, not animal-based. We need to skip the middle animal and stop going through the animal, because the reason the animals get the nutrients is because they're eating plants. So we need to skip the middle animal and go directly to the source, which is the plants. Number eight, be open. Try it for 30 days. Try the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. Go to Amazon, pick up the book. It's $20. We're talking about $20 for a lifetime of change. And that's really all it is. And same thing for the online program. You can get a discount if you join the online program and the book at the same time. But just be open and just try something like the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. Give yourself a chance to experience something new. Number nine is to take it with a buddy. I really do encourage people to get the support they need, and do it with a friend or do it with a family member, do it with someone with whom you live. And again, keep in mind, do your best, relax, do not expect a certificate, and also do not expect, don't expect a certificate of perfection, but also don't expect the vegan police to come knocking on your door. This is about intention and not perfection. It's about doing the best we can to manifest the values we say we have, right? Because most of us actually say we care about not hurting anybody. We don't want to contribute to violence against anybody, but how many of us actually manifest those values in our everyday behavior? For me, being vegan is about manifesting those values in my everyday behavior, right? That's what I hope for all of us. For me, being vegan is just a succinct way of saying that that I removed the barriers to the compassion that had been inside of me all along, because that's ultimately what this is about. It's about us being good, compassionate, kind people, and when we are contributing to animals being killed, brought into this world only to be killed on our behalf, that makes absolutely no sense, for no reason at all except for some momentary pleasure. When I realized that and I wasn't comfortable with it, I stopped. And I've dedicated my life to guiding people to be able to manifest their values and their behavior, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm here for. So use me, find me at joyfulvegan.com, find me at @joyfulvegan on Periscope, on Twitter. You can go get the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. And I'm going to take a sip of water because I've been talking for, I don't even know, 20 minutes or something. Okay, so if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. Of course, we'll come back and we'll do this again, and we'll talk about more tips. We'll talk about all the things we talk about in the 30-Day Vegan Challenge: eating healthfully, affordably, stocking a vegan kitchen, getting to know the grocery store, where do I get my iron, where do I get my protein, I miss cheese, what about meat, I am craving meat, What about when I'm out with family? What about when I travel? What about holidays? What about raising kids? What about B12? What about iron? I mean, every question you can think of, I have covered in the 30-day vegan challenge. And go ahead, try and give me one that I haven't covered. Because what about, oh wait, I forgot about protein. I didn't include protein. I'm kidding. Of course I included protein because it's the number one question. So protein, obviously I cover in the 30-day vegan challenge, so we'll talk about that as well. I like beans and legumes. Is it okay to eat daily? Yeah, absolutely. You know, someone who kind of was a little rude earlier, who just isn't here anymore, he just somehow mysteriously got blocked, was talking about gas. And the truth is, the more you eat, the more beans you eat, the more you get used to the sugars that are in the beans. So you don't tend to have as much bloating and gas when you eat more beans. I know that sounds uncomfortable for people who get gassy or bloated with beans, but frankly, the more you eat, the more you become accustomed to the sugars. And then things like Beano, which is not vegan because it's not even vegetarian because it has gelatin in the capsules, but there's something called Beanzyme where it actually provides the enzyme that enables us to digest the sugars in beans. That's something you can find commercially, and it really does make a difference. So right before you're about to eat beans, take some Beanzyme, and that'll give you the enzyme you need so that you can digest the sugars without bloating or gas or discomfort. But there's no reason to not eat beans every day. I eat beans almost every day. Usually garbanzo beans, my favorite. I love kidney beans. I love pinto beans, either in salads or in a soup or in a stew or just as like in its own salad. How about spices and seasonings with meals? Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about the fact that I think people are really somehow intimidated by spices and seasonings, and yet people go like, oh, vegan food, I thought vegan food was really bland. And I'm like, where do you flavor your meat with? You flavor your meat with plants. We flavor our hot dogs and hamburgers with ketchup and mustard and barbecue sauce and relish and onions and garlic and chutney. Those are all plants. So we flavor our meat with plants. So the flavor is in the plant foods. The flavor is in the spices. So don't be intimidated by spices. Don't be intimidated by seasonings. That's what's going to give you the flavor in your food. So if you've had any of those spices sitting in your cupboard or sitting on the shelf for 6 months, a year, 5 years, go out and get some new ones, get some fresh spices and start seasoning your food. Vegan Voyage Hill said becoming vegan has opened up a whole new world of cooking for me. It's true. It's absolutely true. It happens for so many people. Granola Fu said, I saw an online debate about B12 extreme opinions. What's your take? As I said, I do believe that because we eat differently every day, that it's good insurance to just take a multivitamin with B12. There's no reason to debate B12. It's a water-soluble vitamin. It doesn't cost that much. It means that we get the vitamins we need and we don't have to worry. What is the debate? I don't even want to hear what the debate is because it's just ridiculous. Maybe people just have too much time on their hands and they need a hobby, because I don't understand why would people argue about this. It's just not a big deal. The effects of not getting enough B12, which are not just in vegans, by the way, it's also in non-vegans, are pretty dire. You know, you can really lose your whole, it affects you neurologically. So to debate like that we shouldn't take B12, I'm just glad I don't see those debates, because it's a waste of breath. It's a waste of time. So yeah, take a multivitamin that has a B12 in it. It's water soluble. We don't need that much, but we can get what we need in a multivitamin, get our levels checked, and that's it. Vitamin D. So there are vitamin D recommendations in the 30-day vegan challenge. So the best source of vitamin D, I know many of you have heard this, is the sun. Now, it depends on if you're darker skinned, it depends on where you live, it depends on how much sun there is. So depending on these different factors, you may need to supplement with vitamin D. Depending on your age, you might need to supplement with vitamin D, and that's also fine. It's fine to supplement with it because it means that you're going to actually get the vitamin D that you need. And don't forget that calcium and vitamin D work hand in hand. So it's not enough to just take in calcium. You need vitamin D to also help absorb that calcium and vice versa. So vitamin D, a nice good multivitamin. I had mentioned Dr. Furman's multivitamins. Diva is another good multivitamin brand that I really trust. It's all vegan. So do get some sunlight, get a little bit of sunlight on your hands, get it on your arms, get it on your face. I do take a little bit of sun in every day, not because anybody forces me, just because I love the sun. And it's a really good way to get vitamin D. But as you get older, it's harder to absorb the vitamin D, so you want to take a multivitamin with vitamin D. Does that make sense? Some hearts, so I know it makes sense, because I don't know if you're sleeping. I don't know where you went. I don't know. Okay, that makes sense. Good. Just want to make sure. There's no other way for me to know. I can't see you. So I don't know if you hear me or you're just done. Is D2 okay for D? Right, because D3 tends to be sourced from animals. So D2, it tends there. I think there's been studies that show that the absorption is a little lower, so you just take a little bit more. It is so not complicated. So just make sure you're taking a little bit more D2. And I think I am pretty sure I have the recommendations in here. I'll kind of flip through here while we're talking to make sure. But I have all of this in the 30-Day Vegan Challenge. My the nutritionist who vetted my book was Brenda Davis. To those who don't know Brenda Davis, you need to know Brenda Davis. Her book, Becoming Vegan, is a resource for so many people, and she vetted this book, and she wrote the foreword for this book as well. So I trust all the information in here. So I can't find it. I don't know. So just 30-Day Vegan Challenge. You'll find it online. You'll find it on Amazon. Someone asked if I take spirulina. I don't. I know there are people who believe in it. I think there's just not enough evidence that I would waste or spend money on it when I could just get the nutrients from other greens. But, that's me. I tend to not be big on different superfoods and trends and diets. I just tend to eat a whole foods plant-based diet as much as possible, enjoying also treats and more processed foods, etc. You can find more about how I feel about processed foods, etc. In my vegan point of view videos on YouTube, and of course in my podcast and in the book, because processed is a very loaded term, and if you eat a blueberry that you blend in a smoothie, that's a processed food. If you take a peanut and you make peanut butter, that's a processed food, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we need to talk about processed foods, I think, in a much more specific way, talking about maybe less processed and highly processed, because most of what we eat is processed, but I'm someone who cares about language very much, and I think that this anti-processed food movement is, I think, also something that I think can turn into orthorexia. I think people are a little too obsessed with every single solitary thing they put in their mouth, when we can still eat very healthfully by still being conscious without being obsessed. And I see a little bit of obsession in the vegan movement, to be honest with you, around food. That is just my opinione, if you really want to know. There, now I gave it to you. So, do I have a full menu that I prepare for Thanksgiving? In general, you mean, or in the book? I do tend to, like so many of us. Thank you, Pamela. Pamela loves my balanced attitude. I think, like so many of us, I repeat the same dishes over and over. I mean, I'll make some new things and different holidays, but really, I mean, we make stuffed squash, and how many variations of stuffed squash can you have? And I make mashed potatoes because I want mashed potatoes that I've loved since I was 2. And I want the same bread stuffing that I've loved, that I have in the vegan table, in my book, The Vegan Table. And I love the cranberries that we make with nuts and pecans, and I love apple pie. So, I mean, how many variations can you have, right? So I do tend to have kind of a basic menu, and I do have it in, going to believe this, the 30-Day Vegan Challenge has menus for the holidays, for Thanksgiving, and it is coming up soon, isn't it? It is September, and it's coming up soon. Do I make my own vegetable broth? Sometimes just if I have just a lot of leftover vegetable scraps, but I do tend to buy vegetable broth. Honestly, I don't even tend to buy aseptic boxes anymore, just because I really prefer having as little packaging and waste as possible. That's just something I care really strongly about. I care really strongly. That made absolutely no sense. That's something I care very much about. I care strongly about? That sounded really weird. I'm sorry. After you talked for like 30 minutes, words don't sound good anymore. I tend to get the little bouillon cubes that are, kind of compressed, condensed broth, and then drop those into a soup or rice or something like that, and it adds instant flavor. You can just do half of the cube and you just get a really condensed flavor. So yeah, that's what I tend to do instead of buying like boxes of broth, because I don't like a lot of waste. We just had a party here yesterday. We had 30 people here, and honestly, the only things we put in our cans were beer bottles to recycle. Everything else, we had, our forks, our cups, our plates. We didn't have any waste, and I feel strongly about that. I really do. I feel strongly about that. That was the word I was looking for. Not I care strongly about that. Kids, if you're listening, don't say care strongly. It's not okay. It's not okay. So I feel strongly. Repeat after me. I feel strongly. Okay. Got it. Okay, so I am going to let you go back to your day, and I will be back probably not later, maybe later, depends on if you behave yourselves, but I will definitely be back. I might not be back tomorrow because I'm going to be on a plane all day. If I equipped and articulate by the end of the day, New Jersey time, I will maybe scope in the late evening. But I will definitely be back on Wednesday from New Jersey, and then after a week I'll be back in California. So you might see me sweating a little bit more in New Jersey because it's just a little hot out there. There's a reason I don't live in New Jersey anymore. One, because I don't speak New Jersey anymore. You couldn't tell that I'm from New Jersey, right? Yeah, there's a lot of humidity in New Jersey. So I don't like going there very much, but I'm going to go there to help my mom with some things. It's a real special time. I'm going back to help my mom officially move in with her boyfriend. She's been living on her own for all these years, and now she just needs a little more help, and I'm excited. So I will be back on the East Coast, and then I'll be back to the Bay Area. I know, Bay Area has not been very cool recently, although I love it. I love the warm. I love the hot weather, and I love the dry weather. I've actually been really loving Contra Costa County and just kind of drier areas more and more. Is it difficult to go home and be vegan? No, not at all. No. I mean, whatever. I am 45 years old. I can go to the store and go to my in-laws' house and my mother's house and cook whatever I need, and there's no problem. Everybody makes sure we eat vegan when we're back home. And it was really cute. My mother was out here for a week, and of course she ate vegan the whole time with me. And I just texted her boyfriend earlier today and asked how they were doing, and he said they're doing great. They're eating lunch right now. They were having a fruit smoothie, which is not a typical thing for them. So they're really trying, and they really want to eat healthier. So there's hope for us all, absolutely. So no, it's not a problem at all. There are grocery stores and fruits and vegetables and nuts and grains and beans and mushrooms and herbs and spices. Okay, so I'm gonna go, and thanks everybody for watching. You can follow me at Twitter at Joyful Vegan. Definitely give me shout out there. Follow me over there. I look forward to seeing you again on Periscope. Thank you. A spam man, if I said it correctly. I hope to have a safe trip. Be flying out tomorrow around 11 a.m. and getting there around 7:30 p.m. Hoping to get some work done on the plane, and working on the new project right now. You go to joyfulvegan.com and you can get on the mailing list and find out about all of my goings-ons and my travels, which are coming up pretty soon. So thank you. Best wishes to all of you. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Hearts and kisses and love to you. For the animals. This is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for watching. Bye.